I made a quick little video explaining why some people don't like to discuss Black history. And that's because Black history is white history and it's all American history. And I got a few responses to that short little clip. And I want to address a few things right now. The first thing is that February was not chosen to teach or to learn about Black history. It was chosen to ignore Black history for the rest of the year. Okay? Now, the way that history should be taught, and this should be obvious, but somehow it's not. The way history should be taught is in the order that it took place. American history, I guess you would start with, well, the Native Americans being here first, and then move your way up. Same thing with world history. You start from the beginning, move your way up. Now, someone that I had a previous conversation with, we were talking about AP classes and how anyone could get into an AP class. It wasn't that big a deal. I'm not even sure. But a certain Florida governor who wants to now get rid of AP classes is proving that that's complete bullshit. Because let's be honest, in those advanced program classes, they do teach things a little bit differently. For the better, actually, because they go more into depth about things and it's proper history and things are taught. Now, Morgan Freeman had an interview, a very interesting interview. I forget who was interviewing him. I believe it was 60 Minutes. And they were talking about race and racism and stuff like that. And Morgan Freeman had some very interesting, very insightful, very intelligent points that he made. Until he came to the part where you said that you could, I guess, solve the racism problem by simply not talking about it. And no problem in this world has ever been solved by not talking about it. You know, because by that logic, then all we would have to do is stop talking about crime. Stop talking about war. Stop talking about poverty. It doesn't work. No problem has ever been solved by just ignoring it. See, what happens when you actually ignore problems, it's like a cancer. If you ignore it and you leave it unchecked, it grows. It grows. Not only is it around, but it grows. So even though he had some very insightful points, that last piece kind of rubbed me the wrong way because you don't bring it up, I don't bring it up. That doesn't mean the problem doesn't exist. If we stop talking about mass shootings, does it go away? Now, with all of that, one of the people who responded to me on this video asked a question that it kind of baffled my mind, but it's still an interesting question. And they said, well, do you think policy can change any of this? Do you think policy would solve the problem? And I would say, yes. What do you think civil rights are today? You know, this thing about, well, if we just simply ignore and don't talk about something, does it go? Well, with that mentality, we'd still have slavery around. So do I think policy could change? Yes. I'll say it again. The Civil War was a bunch of woke people trying to cancel a culture because they understood that there was a serious problem that needed to be addressed. Unfortunately, in their case, it couldn't be talked out and they went to war. But that shows you how much you allow a cancer to grow and spread to the point where you cannot discuss it anymore and fighting has to take place. You know, I to be honest with you, I do my videos for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is I want to see if I'm the only one who thinks the way I do, because sometimes I feel very, alone as far as my thought process. But the other reason is because I actually do enjoy open dialogue and discussion, which is why I try to respond to everybody and anybody on social media. as long as you're trying to make a good, interesting point, don't come up here and say social media is full of people who just like to say stupid shit that has nothing to do with anything. But I like the open dialogue. I like the intelligent conversation. I like the questions being raised, because this is how you end up solving problems. Now, we're not trying to create a problem that doesn't exist. That's nonsense. If you think that these things are not an issue and they don't affect today's world, well, then you live in some alternate reality. Because we can see how the racism of the past still affects today's future. No, you really can't. You want to know what happened to the members of the KKK back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s? They took off the sheets. They didn't change their mentality. They just took off the sheets. So we can sit here and say, well, let's ignore and not discuss the problem. But those people are still out there. It's just that we can't identify them that easily anymore. So if you want to insist that, hey, just stop talking about it and the problem goes away, then I would suggest that you just stop talking. And that would make all problems go away. But if you want to bring about real change to this world, then start thinking and open your mind to actually solving the issues in front of you. Maybe then we can get rid of crime and poverty, school shootings, racism. But don't pretend that there's not a problem, because that in itself is the biggest problem.